special tones, you know,
Okay.
on certain wavelengths,
Yeah.
which are supposed to help.
And do you find it work?
You being a musician would understand all
Yeah.
that different tones.
Yeah. I love the noise. I know this sounds mad, but I love the noise of waves.
Yeah.
Just love the noise of waves, man. I'd sit on a beach and just I nearly close one ear and just listen to the waves.
It's rhythm.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah, it's constant.
and then if it ties in with your heartbeat,
Yeah.
you forget, obviously, and you, again, being a musician, your heartbeat.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
I have a song, I wrote a new song about a one night stand, and it's kind of like it's about kind of going into a nightclub and seeing this girl, and she's an older girl, and you end up having the time of your life for her, and you're questioning if it was a dream. And I sent to Stuart, the producer, and he said to me, what kind of sounds would you like in it? I said, I know this sounds fucking crazy, but I said, I don't think a lot of people would do this, and I think that's what I want to do, because a lot of people won't do it. It'll make it something different again. But I love the noise of a girl heavy breathing as the drum beat of the song.
Okay.
Like a just heavy, fast breathing. I know it sounds weird,
Oh no.
but the song is fucking dead. Like it's a
Is
good
it a fast song?
Yeah, it's upbeat. Yeah, I wrote a great one. Did I tell you about Unsung Heroes?
Yes, you did mention something about that.
So
yeah.
I wrote this song about 4 Dublin characters, and there's a young girl who was on the dole, and she's getting a job, but doesn't want to tell anyone. You know, just a normal young one. Then the second verse is about a fella called Noli, who's a drug addict, but he's mad. He's looking after his mad. It's very short now. Third verse is about a prostitute, but she's like, all she knows is prostitution, because that's how you can pay for her kid and help her kid. The last verse is where he's there's a fella in prison, and he's saying like, oh, you know the way a lot of people are like, I didn't do it, kind of, you know. There's very few prisoners that say they're guilty, but I just want to let you hear. Firstly, I'll quickly read you out the lyrics, and so the lyrics are: cigarettes on doorsteps just past Bleecker Street. Mark, there might be noise or
Sure.
yeah, I'm fine with that. Cigarettes on doorsteps just past Bleecker Street. A young one cries upstairs inside with a head filled with grief. She thinks that she's a waste of time, but soon she'll find her feet. And she'll find a job, but you're not to know, because our dog will be stopped next week. Nobody said he's doing well, he's 3 days off the drink. His mother hates the sleepless night, she hardly even eats. She's nightmares of his overdose playing on repeat, but Noli said he'll prove us wrong in a year, is all he needs. Then the chorus is, I love her, it's a city full of skin with hidden scars. That's the pre-chorus. And then the chorus is, to our unsung heroes, please don't give up, keep holding on, because it does on you. I'll let you hear it in a second, rough idea of it. And then the next verse is, Maggie wears a short dress and heels on her feet. She decides who gets her time and stops after 3. Ashamed of what she does in life, but her baby needs to eat, and to feed a child you work at night, and that's all Maggie's seeing. Andy's in a prison cell with no date of release. He's still singing songs of innocence and blames all the police. He said the knife fell from the sky and into Johnny's spleen, but Johnny was still out of his head and he never felt a thing. And it's, oh, I love her, a city full of skins. So the version of it, now again, this is back to recording at home. I'm no good at recording at home, but I played this live the other night and the crowd fucking buzzed off, you know. Let's see. I'll just quickly let you hear this. So this a little bit. That's all really, just into the chorus. But I think when I played it the other night, I got a feeling off that song that I thought, I think if I have a song that's going to be a mover in terms of what I'm doing, I think that could be the song.
It's quite upbeat as well.
Yeah, it has a nice little vibe to it, you know. And there's a bit of humour in it. Like there's a little bit of kind of like, when she finds a job, you're not to know, because I'd all be stopped next week.
Yeah.
And then the knife, Andy said the knife fell from the sky and into Johnny's spleen, but Johnny was still out of his head and he never felt a thing. Kind of like
it's like what some of them would say.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want to say, right, well, first of all, there's there's two musicians I'm following at the moment, and Irish musicians. Obviously, The Scratch, who are releasing a new album soon, and yourself, right? And the vibe at both concerts. I've seen you 2 or 3 times now, and I've seen The Scratch 5 or 6 times. And the vibe at both gigs, it's like live music really coming back now, especially after COVID. So they're a bit more frenetic than you. You play a lot more sort of ballads, but you still have your up-tempo song and your great cover of what's it called,
Freed from Desire.
Yeah, Freed from Desire,
yeah.
right? Really gets the crowd going. And it's, you know, it's just fucking great to see. Even with I was at the Emmett's Going Away spoken word, the poets there, and like male and female, it's just great to see all this Irish talent.
You know, when people say you're in your prime or something like that, I feel like I'm a dot behind that, if that makes sense. I think I'm a stone throw away from being in me kind of what I'm writing and things like that. I think I'm not far off that, you know what I mean?
And it's bringing people back together that have been, that were stuck at home or whatever for years, for a year and a half.
Do you know what, when I think of the lockdown, sometimes I do think, I don't know how we actually done it, if that makes sense. Like I do think to myself, did that actually really happen? Like,
but answer me this: how many songs did you write during lockdown? Did you struggle, or did you bloom, or a bit of both?
I wrote a lot, but I felt my motivation was lacking. Like I felt like I had no motivation. I felt like I didn't like.
Was it because there was no goal?
There was no certainty. Even if you had it, like you could have goals, but there was no certainty. Like I had some gigs booked, like they were announcing like people could do 50 capacity shows in the Workman's or in certain venues in Dublin, and even with that, like you'd be working towards it and then it's pulled, so there was just never that certainty of what's going to happen, you know. So that knocked me a lot, and that's where I would have gotten one of my last songs too hard on myself, like, because there was a lot of the time I was sitting around and I was thinking to myself, Jesus, like I'm worthless, you know, I've nothing to offer here because I don't do the little TikTok live streams. I did the odd live stream online, but it was more like I felt like it's no point to me doing. And
which lines me up perfect for the next question. As a live performer, and an amazing live performer, if I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, thank you.
That connection with the audience, right? That give and take, right? Fucking Zoom, Team, all this online shit. Yeah, you need that energy transference. Yeah.
There's. I still don't get it, because there's some, like I know people that are working in office and that, and they still do like meetings on Zoom and that when they can go face to face, and I think online meetings and online chats, just there's a massive gap there in terms of, like, there's a gap of expression, there's a gap of being able to show sympathy or empathy, or like just it's not there. I think different. There's not. And then with a gig, like I was doing a live stream one time, and I done a live for it was an arts council thing, and it was great. Like they funded it and that, and we had good fun with it, but there was no one there. I nearly felt like after every song, because I wasn't hearing the crowd or I didn't hear anyone sing, I nearly felt like what I was doing was shit.
Yeah,
you know, because you're missing that kind of, the look into someone's eyes and they're smiling, or they're the outfit in the corner and he's winking at you, like, and he probably feels like you don't see him, but you always spot him or so. And them little things, like you're doing them live streams or Zoom calls or anything like that, there's a lack of expression, I think, even on people, like, you know, the little pause just before the next person talks and all. It's just different, you know. And I think, like, chatting like with this now with yourself, like if we were doing this on a Zoom call, man, I always feel uncomfortable with it.
No, why would you know? You could do it in August, lovely dirty
when you
studio.
Come in and do it. No, this is amazing. This is amazing because it's you're getting to still talk, and you're getting to look into the eyes, the proper eyes soon, or looking at a screen and seeing a fucking notification pop up or something like that, you know.
Speaking of screens, this is another question I want to ask you, which just popped into my head. I do a lot of live painting, obviously murals, so people photograph me all the time, but the difference between me and you is they're photographing my arse up on a ladder, right? On my back, you know.
Sometimes I wish they were photographing my arse.
How do you feel about people with looking at you live through this little rectangular phone, and you're up on stage giving your all, and again, it's not the same as a Zoom meeting and all, but there's this little screen between you and them.
Two things I find for one, a lot of the time when you record it, when I'm at a gig, sometimes I take the phone out and I record it, but if you ever notice, you never look back on it.
Yeah.
Never ever look back on it. I think sometimes people record it because there's a nice moment and there's a nice thing to be able to share online.
Yeah.
That you've been involved in it in some way, shape or form. But for me, looking down, it doesn't really bother me at all. In some ways it makes you feel like you're giving them more of a memory. They're gonna have something of you or something like that on their phone, or like they're getting more out of it. But I do, like, I see gigs saying there's no phones allowed and things like that, and to me, like, people texting on their phone at a gig is sometimes when you notice you're a bit like, look, it could be important, but sometimes it's not necessary, you know. But I don't know whether there's not really a massive thing for me to say, look, don't have your phones out. That doesn't really bother me or affect me as much, you know. I find it more strange when somebody is taking taking a photo of you, or like, I was doing a gig years ago, about 3-4 years ago. I was down with Christy Dignam and Joe Joel down in Longford, and there was a lady there, a lovely lady actually, and she was very nice. But after the show, after I done the support, I came out and I was chatting to a couple of people, and she says to me, "Can I get a photo, like?" And I said, "Yeah, of course," like, and I kind of stood there waiting to, like, get a photo with her, like maybe a selfie or something, just having a buzz, you know. But she says, "No, like, just a photo of you, like, just like a normal photo." And I was like, that never happened before, and I found that a little bit weird. Like, not weird, I just found it, I didn't know what to do. Like, do you want me to pose, or do you want me to smile? I didn't know what the fuck to do, you know. So
That's strange.
yeah,
Unless you're posing for a photo.
where's this photo going, you know? Like, but no, I don't know, it was cute. It wasn't like it was a photographer, like, it was someone that just kind of took their phone out and went like that and said thank you and walked off. Like,
Yeah, I've always wondered about the mobile phones, because I know some people like Van Morrison, Bob Dylan and the like, who are way before mobile phones were on the scene.
yeah,
Some of them back in the day, wouldn't let people bring in cameras. I know Led Zeppelin were notorious for stuff like that.
yeah, like, some people as well, when they're touring, they'll, like, I know Tommy Tiernan doesn't let you take photos or videos at his gigs, and his thing is, because the show is kind of the same each night,
Yeah.
probably not bang on the same, but more than likely the same. So it's the thing, if this goes online, like, people tomorrow night are seeing the jokes, they're hearing them already. That's why you'll never really see phone footage or a Tommy Tiernan gig, or that could be a factor to it. But to me, I'll always try and make it different anyway, and like, maybe touring down the line. But yeah, it doesn't really affect me that much, you know. I don't really think too much of it, because I think I do it myself sometimes at gigs, and I don't know why I do it. I never look back on them. Sometimes I don't even post them. I just feel like it's a thing to show that I've been there to nobody.
Yeah.
That makes sense, you know. And yeah, it's a bit of a weird. I think that's something that, like, would be very interesting to look into. Like, for someone to look into the mind of, why would you record a gig when most of the time you never look back? Now, I'd go home to me ma and say, I was up at Paolo Nutini a couple of weeks ago in Belfast, and I said to her, "Look at the gig I was at, this was deadly, like, here's some of the footage," but wouldn't be on me some of it might be on me stories on Instagram or something like that, but the footage that I'd have, I'd be recording a gig, and still to this day I haven't looked back at one bit of that footage. So
tell us, you've had one EP and a couple of standalone singles to date, yeah?
Yeah, I released Life in Our City last year. Felt like that was the first project that kind of showed what I do, who I am and where I'm from, and the kind of person I am, I suppose, you know. But that was the first, I think that's the first proper project I've released that I can say I'm proud of, if that makes sense. There's other singles that I've released that I'd say they're good, and some people enjoy those, but I think in terms of where you hear me vulnerable side, you can kind of, I feel, opened up on Life in Our City a lot, and that was
it's progress,
yeah, and I get that kind of, there's a feel of Life in Our City, there's something about it that I just feel, you know what, if someone says to me what type of music you do or something like that, I can say, this is me, and this is
it's like a diary almost.
Yeah. I
know you don't live, you lived up near the top of Capel Street, near Bolton Street.
I wasn't far off, just Lynn Hall Street area, down up just behind Kevin Barry Flats. So and
you've moved out.
My mum moved out to Santry when I was about 17 I think.
I live in Tallaght, so I'm not from the inner city, so it would be similar to sort of, coming from Santry, but to me it's almost like a love letter from you to living on the outside, back to your childhood, the inner city, standing on the corner having cigarettes, dodging needles, the community involved in the flats, You know, when someone fails, you all set sail. They get the people around you.
Yeah.
And also some of the stuff I love is because we've tried to do bits with other projects I've done about not judging people.
Yeah.
You know, inner city scum. You know, this type of shit. You're a knacker. You're this. You're that. Because of where you're from.
Yeah.
I can't stand any of that, obviously, because. It doesn't matter where you're from or where you're at. You know, there's good people. There's people not doing so good. You know, there's
sometimes
everything.
Though that stuff can start, and not to get kind of political or anything like that, but that stuff can kind of start from the top in ways, like with the Garda in town, for example. Like years ago, if they came into the flats, my group of mates, there would have been 1 or 2 or 3 that might be messers that would be in a like getting into a bit of trouble or whatever. But everyone got it. Everyone was the ones in trouble when if the police came to the flats. All you got up and stand at the wall and we're gonna search you. Like wherever it was everyone, you know. And like whether if I walk into a shop, even now, if I wear a tracksuit in a shop, and I know this is kind of over spoken about, but if I wear a tracksuit in some shops, I still get watched by security guards today. Now, fair enough, if they think that's their job, if they assume that I might be someone that's gonna rob something or whatever, but I think it's funny sometimes because sometimes I have more money in my pocket than probably what they have in their pocket. I'm not going in to steal, I'm going in to buy leading golly bar or something like that. You know what I mean?
But some people are quite working class with a certain, you know, mentality or you know, a certain lifestyle where working class, it's in the title. It's you know, people sometimes forget about you know, the word work. Yeah.
I actually was working before on a project, and I was going to call it work in class.
Yeah.
And this like I think a lot of the people that would speak about or say people from town are knackers or whatever words you want to use, or they're scumbags or scroats or whatever words to use. I think if they spent a week in the flats, their mind, or in the north inner city or the south inner city, I think if they spent a week in there, their mind would be blown.
Of course.
Like I just think it's I know someone I've been out with recently, like a good friend, and they're from a completely different background to where I'm from, and I've brought them into different parts of town and different parts of Dublin, that it's like going to the Canary Islands sort of or something like that. Like, this is amazing. I can't believe you do this. And
thinking.
You know,
black and white, it's either or, you know.
Yeah.
You know, like we need to live in the grey area, right? We have black and you have white thinking, and everything's in the grey area.
Yeah.
But the good thing about the grey area, and it's just what you said with your mind blown, that's where the rainbow comes from. The excuse, like the opposite of being grey, but that's where the colour and the rainbow and life comes from, in that grey area.
In the middle.
You know.
I think it's about opening your mind though. I think it's that kind of thing of being like, no, I don't like this or I don't like that. Give it a go.
Yeah.
And then decide if you don't like it, you know.
We did a project in Mountjoy Prison. We're doing a massive one in East Wall at the moment. And we've met with a lot of the community groups out there. And that would be very working class. And I'm talking people working on the docks.
Yeah.
Or working there was a lot of timber yards there, or textiles. And predominantly we've spoken to the older people in the community. We'll be doing another mural with younger people. And some of the stories, and it reminds me a lot what was in your inner city, what was in your inner city life EP. You know, just them stories. We're getting a lot of that in this East Wall. And you, from what they're telling us, you've put into songs, you've put into lyrics. And for anyone who might have a general idea of what it's like living in the inner city, should listen to the album, and it might give them a bit of that colour.
Yeah.
You know, there is colour, there is character, there's intelligence, there's talent, there's football.
Yeah.
You know, there's artists, there's people, and this is what I love about going into these, there's pillars of the community that do so much for the community, whether they're working in drug programs or working with young people, or, you know, the boxing clubs, or the majorettes, breakdancing, whatever. That, to me, that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It's not drugs, it's not crime.
No. That's a handful. That that's gonna happen anywhere. You know, them parts gonna happen anywhere. But the important things, the positive things, the great things about the city. You know, I said this before in an interview. I always think the talents and the community spirits and things like that are well overlooked not only in the inner city, in working class areas in general, you know. But life in our city for me was something that I wanted to paint a picture for somebody that's not there and say, you know what, you do have the people, like you'll have kids going to school that will walk by needles, but they turn out all right, you know. Sometimes that's a little alert or an alarm for them.
Yeah.
That, like, it's nearly like a thing in your mind, if you're walking by them as a kid, stay away from it, you know what I mean? Like, you always avoid it. And for me, I just think when I was writing it, like, I had so many songs wrote for Life in Our City. I'd say I had about 15 songs ready to go for Life in Our City. Yeah. And I had to squeeze it down to 4 or 5. And there was a couple of songs. I had one called We Were Raised a Different Way, and it was a nice song, nice beat and that to it. But it just felt, when I listened to it, I wanted to get something that, when I even listen to it, it just brings me, you can nearly feel like you're on the back of a push bike going through the place when you listen to Life in Our City.
Yeah.
With Devil, Devil was an open up for me. Like, I just felt like I was opening something up that some people talk about, the songwriters and singers sing about drugs and that, you know. But
I know some of your songs, and you've said this on stage, some of your songs are directly related to your life experiences, and others, being a songwriter or a storyteller, you've put yourself in someone else's shoes, especially I'm thinking of the song Mother.
Yeah.
Or even like, you know, the song The Devil or Devil.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know people who have had problems with addiction and again with Mother with domestic abuse and stuff like that. But it's not all directly related. Some of you are writing about overall experience.
A lot of people assume when you're writing, it's always about you, you know. When I hear, like, if I hear Glenn Hansard or Damien Dempsey or Christy Moore, you always automatically assume that song's about him, you know.
Oh, yeah.
But for me, a lot of songs, and people will never know, like, I'll never tell or I'll never actually say which songs are directly. There'll be songs that I'll say, look, this is a song I wrote to myself or a song I wrote about myself. But there's certain words, and like Follow Your Soul, there's 2 parts of that song that could be about 2 different people, you know.
Yeah.
And I always avoid trying to tell people. I'll always give a brief of the song, but I'll always avoid telling them exactly how I wrote or what I wrote about, because I like them feeling it, getting that feeling. But a lot of the songs I like writing, I find I write them as if I was in someone else's mind, and if I'm writing them in someone else's mind, I'm kind of writing for somebody that doesn't have that voice. And I'm not trying to sound like a politician or somebody that is a voice of anybody else, but I just feel like...
Can I contradict you there for a sec?
Yeah.
Forget about the politicians. Is it not an artist's job to speak for people who can't?
It is, in ways. Like, I suppose...
Without forcing it on them, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be, but I'd never like to have that label that I'm speaking for them, you know, because I think they can speak for themselves. I think sometimes you just need to either bottle her up or they might not have confidence to do it. But my thing is, when I write a song like Devil, I'd be thinking of someone that's sitting in maybe Ballybock Flats, a fella who's probably on heroin or probably on something, and he says to his mate, like, there's no big audience and he's not saying to a big crowd on a gig, listen to this song. He's sitting there with his mate and I'll never know about it, and he's saying, it's this young fella that wrote a song, have a listen to this, and every line relates to him, and he thinks, that's exactly how I fucking felt there. And that's me, without trying to say to people, like, obviously it would be a voice for people in ways, but without kind of going out and campaigning and saying to people, look, I'll speak for you, I'll write songs for you and get you get things. It's never about getting change, it's just about telling the truth.
But let me reword then. When say you have the talent as a songwriter, right, an artist, to express yourself, right, and it might be a story about you, or it might be a general story, right, so people do connect with it. Yeah. So maybe you're not writing for them, or some people can't express themselves.
Yeah, I think
so it will help. Like when I hear, I feel the earth begin to move, the Stone Roses, and I'm in a great mood. I'm never going to be able to write that song, but that gets me going. Or
I think it has that thing.
He's a real nowhere man. That's how I feel sometimes. Yeah. So that, to me, that's the talent. It is. That's the beauty. That's the magic.
Yeah, it's people getting something from it is important to me, but a lot of the time it's the people who don't have a voice.
Right.
If I was writing a song about someone who's living in LA and they're driving Lamborghinis, for one, they won't give a shit about it. They live a fancy life and they're living in LA or whatever. But for two, they might have a voice, they might have connections, they might have ways to get things changed.
Yeah.
But I'm writing this for the fella who has nothing, or the woman who has nothing, or the child who has nothing. And when I say nothing, it doesn't mean like you live in a box room with nothing. It means you could live in a half decent house. You might get your walls papered every year and your house painted every Christmas. And people would say, he has a few bob, but they don't. You don't have a lot of choice. You can't change much.
Yeah.
And you feel worthless or you feel useless. And I know what it's like to kind of feel a bit useless. Sometimes I still do. I still kind of feel like when you hear things about politics, I'm not intelligent. I always say I'm not intelligent enough to go into politics or speak about it. But when I see things going on, like we're doing this or we're doing that, I always think, well, sure, I wouldn't be able to make any difference, you know? How could I make any difference to it? I'm just the young fella from out there, and he just go do your few gigs and you're kind of like a forgotten soul, so to speak. Whereas somebody that would be into voting, would be going into community or committee meetings and trying to change things, that probably has a bit of leverage and has a bit of power, would say, well, I'm going to actually do that. I think with the songs, it's good for those people that feel like that to think he's on our side as well, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's and he's just the exact same, you know.
Well, personally, I believe everyone, right, has something, right, to help them get through life, a talent, you know, something they're good at.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't find it, or they don't feed it. Now, it might be golfing, or it might be football, or it might be cooking, it might be sewing, it might be painting, it might be writing songs.
Yeah.
You know, it could be, but I do believe everyone is given something or has something.
Yeah.
And I feel a lot of people, you know, if they don't find it, they depress, they get depressed, they come in on themselves. And I think that's where the role of an artist or you know, musicians can really help people get through that.
Yeah. You know? Do you know something I always say, and I when I'm gigging or anything like that, and I done a podcast previously, and I remember them saying to me, like, you know, this thing about, oh, you're very talented. Like, I know there is people that's talented, and sometimes I wouldn't dwell on the word too much, but I always think it's mad that people praise you for doing art or music or whatever it is, because sometimes I think of, like, say, I know this sounds mad, right, but say a carpenter comes into my house and he builds a fucking coffee table, right? I wouldn't have a clue I wouldn't know where to even start
That's a
with.
skill, that's an art.
That's a skill, or a teacher being able to teach you something, or wherever it
everyone
is.
has something.
So I always find it weird that people, not clap, but like people are praising you for doing something musically just because it's a little bit more out there and it's more public, or for art. Like, I always wonder, why don't you give your mechanic a clap when he gives your car a service?
Your doctor working on cancer in the hospital.
You know, and that's why I kind of think a lot of the time, like, I'm very kind of pulled back with the whole music thing. To me, like, I don't think there's any, people say, like, oh, you're going to be successful, you're going to be this, like, but I think I am already successful. I think I've done everything, not everything I wanted to do, but I've done everything that, I've done a lot more than what I thought I'd do.
Yeah.
And in terms of being, I know it's probably cliche in some ways, but successful to me is not wearing sunglasses indoors or being able to wear a furry coat going through Grafton Street, you know. For me,
it's different for everyone.
It is very different, yeah. In fairness, I wouldn't mind the sunglasses and the furry glasses, or the furry jacket. But success to me is doing something that, creating a piece of work, putting it out there, and one person, whether it's your ma, your dad, your sister, your brother, one person saying to you, that's all right, actually, you know.
Yeah.
That's good. And if the rest comes and the rest goes, that's amazing. That's the good bits then. They're the parts where it gets enjoyable because more people are hearing it and more people it's going into more ears. But for me, it's the same thing as the carpenter. It's the same thing as the doctor or the mechanic. He just done the same thing as what I'm doing music probably since I'm 13, so about 13 years I'm doing music. The mechanic that does mechanics 13 years could probably turn a car inside out. He doesn't have, he's not on a stage and he's not in an audience. And I won't go on too long about this, but I find stage is weird. I always find I don't know. I never really looked into it too much, but the idea of a stage being real high, I feel like that makes sometimes there's people below you. Does that mean, is that why people have that thing like they're kind of, it separates you, you know, and that's something I do think about that kind of stuff a little bit, you know. I do think to myself like, why don't they have stages the same height no matter where you're playing, you know? I know there's bigger venues and you have to maybe for the back of the crowd to see, but I just feel like Likens that connection is missing then, you know. There's that thing that like I do think some people do think that when they're talking to you, like they think you're a completely different person, you know, and you're, because you play a few songs and they might have seen you on YouTube or wherever it is, that you're automatically different to them, but they don't realise like when you go home you're still eating the pot noodle and out of the press that's probably gone off 3 days that your ma bought for 79 cents, you know what I mean, and they're probably doing the exact same thing. It's always just the same, you know.
Well, I think a lot of people, just coming from rock and roll, they're fed on this, you know, rock and roll dream.
Yeah.
You know, from a young age, you know, there's groupies, there's drugs, you know, partying, you get to meet all the celebrities. You know, you're living the dream, you get to write all your songs and play them live, and, you know, you have people worshipping you. And of course, you know, that's the way, like when I was 15, I loved, you know, Jim Morrison and the Sex Pistols and Sid Vicious and all this. Yeah, I was into all that, you know. Yeah. And then you grow up and you realise, there's a Club 27 as well. Yeah. for a certain reason, you know, people being fed drugs and so on. You know, these musicians, God love them, and so forth. Like it's nothing is as it seems. Nothing. No. You know. No.
Celebrities.
Like, and then
I always used to say years ago, like when I was a kid, like, you know, WWE people and things like that, the wrestlers, like, I think they're like just, you're never gonna meet them, you're never gonna see them. Now I never met them, but I used to have that mindset that like there's the gap, like you're here and they're there.
Yeah.
There's not really, like I don't nowadays. I don't really, not that I don't worship anyone, but I don't really get that. I don't use the word celeb just because, like, you can make yourself, like, if you walk down Temple Bar and hired 4 people to bring a few cameras with you and get a few photos of you while you're in there, everyone looks and thinks, oh, there's something, he's important, you know what I mean? But you're still the same as them. They just have the paparazzis or whatever. But it's just, celebrities is a thing that I don't understand at all, man. I find it mental. Like,
I don't know much about it personally, you know. What I do know about is sitting on my bed, taking out a pen and paper and sketching. And after about 10 minutes, I'm in my own world. Yeah. And that's where, so there's 2 things in life for me are complete and utter antidepressants. And one is my dog, Calvin. Right. He's 13. Yeah. And if he's just sitting beside me, I'm happy. And the other is when I'm painting or sketching. Yeah. Or if I'm doing a big mural, there's times when I get in the zone. Yeah. Where everything just does disappear. It melts away and you're completely in the zone. So I'm assuming you get this when you're writing at certain stages or when you're performing live and you're in that zone. Yeah, I think when I'm writing, I don't believe in a lot of cliche stuff, you know, like when people say, like, do this, it's great for your head, and do that, it's great for your head. But I said years ago, the guitar, something about the guitar that could be fighting with your girlfriend, you could be fighting with your ma, you could be fighting with your sister, you could be fighting with anybody, or something just could be going wrong. And the minute I touch the guitar, no lie, and because I don't believe in a lot of the stuff, not your stuff, I mean in general, like when people said to me before, same with swimming, go out and do a sea swim, I said, that's not going to cure me. My head is messed, you know what I mean? I'm not in the humour of that shy. But the guitar just... It's different for everyone. It's the guitar blanks everything, you know? Yeah. And then the sea swims, I thought this is all cliche, you know, not into that kind of jazz. Went out and done it, and I thought, fuck, like this, there is something about that, you know? I started doing a stretching regime over the last 2 or 3 years. Yeah. My brother-in-law is a yoga teacher, so he showed me some moves, and I got some off YouTube. Yeah. And I'm sort of addicted to it now, and I feel a bit down on myself or annoyed if I haven't done it in a few days. So I try and do it 4 or 5 times a week, and I try and, meditate afterwards, right? Yeah. But I'm doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for anyone else. You know. Because I'm late 40s.
Yeah.
So I'm climbing up and down ladders and scaffold trying to paint murals. So I have to keep some sort of physical fitness.
Yeah. Yeah, in there, yeah.
Because when I'm doing a mural now, it kills me.
Yeah.
I would be dead afterwards.
I can imagine, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I find if I'm gigging, I do try to do a few days walking now before gigs, and walking as in like I'd go out to Holt and take a little cliff walk or whatever.
No 6 or 7 lines of cocaine before you go on stage.
No.
You're doing it a different way.
I've never, drugs have never really appealed to me, to be honest with you. I've never, for some reason I just don't, like I don't have anything against anyone that does them, like just not for me. I think I'm too wired or something, like I'd be very kind of calm in these interviews and that, but when I'm out and I'm messing and all, I'm a bit of a messer, you know, and I'm always just buzzy, and I don't even like the old drink, Kevin, to be honest with you.
I think your songwriting is your drug.
Yeah.
I believe you've written a new song.
Yeah.
And just before you answer that, I feel very honoured and privileged that you sent me the demo.
Yeah.
Right, and I've listened to it a good few times now, right?
I wanted to firstly send the demo to because anytime I was chatting with you, we've always kind of had good chats, you know. But the song itself, I kind of, after the Wheeling show in May, I kind of felt like there was just, you know, a rough few months, just general few months of shite and that, you know, just in general life stuff. And I said I'm gonna box off 2 weeks to write this project that I want to do, a new project after life in a city and that, and come out with something new. So I spent 2 weeks trying to write and forcing the writing, and I got some good songs. Like I got some good ideas out. I think I have about 14.
Is this for a new album? For your debut album, technically.
We're working on that, but
right.
It was to get ideas out, a writing process going. I wasn't writing much, and I wrote a load of songs with great ideas. I have about 14 or 15 there that I just wrote, and I probably won't ever do anything with any of them ones. Maybe one or two I'll keep.
They're almost like sketches.
Yeah. But I was forcing them because I gave myself this time frame to write these songs, and
doesn't always work, does it?
No. I got the songs, but I don't know whether I got their song, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the 2 weeks were up, we'll say. It was a Saturday, and I said I'm going to finish up then, and I'm going to go camping with my friends and have a bit of fun and enjoy myself then. Had a bit of crack. But I woke up the next morning, and that morning after camping, I was lying in bed, and this, no word of a lie, this line came to me, was it I was broken? Was it I was hopeless? And it was more the melody part of, was that just the voices, boy? You know, the next bit. And for some reason it came to me head, and me writing is done, so I'm like, well, I write another song, that's just going to be another force job, you know. So the person I was with, I said, would you mind grabbing a pen for a second? I have a great idea in my head here, and my guitar. And I was in the bed for, I'd say 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And the whole song was wrote. And when I say that's not in a braggy way or anything, I just mean there was no thinking to it. It was this thing that was out, the hook of it was about being okay, and not being okay, but letting yourself know it was okay. The more I thought of the song, I didn't know what I wrote about when I first wrote it, you know. Didn't know what it was about. I didn't know why I wrote it.
You had a scrambled eggs moment.
Yeah, and I just felt like after writing it then, I was driving down to the camping thing that I was going to, you know, and I'm at the recording a version on my phone on WhatsApp because I don't want to forget the melody, I don't want to forget the way I'm at the writing it. And I thought to myself, and this never happened to me in my life about when I wrote a song or with projects, but I genuinely nearly started crying. And I said to the person I was with, I think I'm at the writing probably lyrically one of the best songs I've wrote to date without thinking about it, without intentionally doing it, or without intentionally writing it for a reason. And I said, do you know what, only because I'm feeling so good now in this moment, say in the last couple of weeks, I'm only feeling good in this moment, I think I'm after finding out what was wrong with me the last few months just through the song, you know. And
it's almost like a release.
Yeah, unintentionally, you know. It was like a letter to myself when I wrote it.
It's a very powerful song.
in a way, and the okay bit every time I hear it. So I wanted to get into the studio quickly to get this song done.
Yeah.
There was something about it. I just feel like for me it's the right time. It's how I'm feeling, and it's that okay bit in the song is nearly. I keep thinking of getting a hug when I sing it to myself. You know, it's nearly like someone's giving me a hug every time.
It's the first thing someone will ask you if they see you looking down. Are you okay?
Yeah.
There's, you know, there's this famous book. I think it was out in the 70s. I'm okay. You're okay, and it's all about that self-help. You know?
Yeah.
But just going back to what we were saying about people connecting with music and with songs. In my opinion, now I think this is going to be one of them songs because it's going to touch a lot of people who feel lonely, feel alone. And to me, sometimes there can be a difference between feeling alone and being alone. Like I could spend the days on my own or alone and be happy as a pig and shit.
Yeah.
I could be drawing, watching me movies, you know, doing bits and pieces, whatever. And I don't feel lonely.
Yeah.
So some people, you know.
Yeah, it's I think when, like, sometimes when I write songs like that, I don't be thinking of who I'm writing for, because I never really write it necessarily for a particular, like I never write the song and think, right, this is going to hit all these people because that'll be the market audience.
I know, and I'm sort of the devil's advocate saying I feel that's what's going to happen because it's such a great song. But and that chorus.
There's something about it. There's something about this song. There's something I wrote, like, you know, and as we were chatting earlier, I don't really write a lot of songs directly about myself, you know. Yeah. But I only realised how bad I was, or how shit I was feeling for a while, by feeling good as well, you know. And the song was...
That's firefighting. Sometimes you don't know how bad the fire was till it's out.
Yeah.
You know, and you're actually taking time back.
Yeah.
And you're just relaxing and reflecting, and then you realise, shit, I might have been through a bad patch. I wasn't okay.
Yeah. And you know what, I'm a bit, as I said as well, I'd be a bit of a messer, you know, around my family and around everybody, and I constantly felt like I had every room I was going into, right, you have to keep up the keep up for everyone, like beyond that upbeat, you have that buzz about you, you know, have that kind of feel, the normal thing about you. And then I was going to bed and I was kind of like, it's a bit like you're nearly trying to forget the moment you're in, right, to get into the next morning to when you can go back to that mode, you know. If I'm honest with you, I used to think a lot of people with mental health things, like I know a lot of people were going through depression and sadness, but there was a point where I did think a lot of people were milking it, and there was a lot of people saying they had it just to feel involved in something.
Yeah.
But now I realise there maybe is some people to do it that do feel down, and maybe some people that don't, and they want to feel involved in something. But I just think it was the first time in my life that I actually felt shit for a bit, you know. And it's never, I wouldn't be talking about it to try and, like, I'm no helper to people, or no kind of like, and not in a funny way, like, but Brezzy has bleeding 10-hour podcast he'll chat to you about. He might have tools or whatever, because he has a good thing about, like, a good way of talking about it. But for me, it was just all with the song. It was just to say, like, you know, don't worry about feeling like that. For me, you're all right. Like, you're all right. It's grand. You felt like you've been like that. And
it is okay to feel down, because you will come out of it eventually.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And the thing was, like, the chorus part, it's not okay to do it all alone. No matter where you're going, you'll need a hand to hold, kind of thing. For me, that was, like, you do need someone. When my mum, my family around me, my brothers, my dad, for me, they were that important bit, you know.
Yeah. So, some people find it hard to ask for help.
I never asked for help, though. Yeah. I never. I think I was more in denial, you know. Yeah. You're a bit in denial that you don't feel shit or whatever. But I didn't ask for help, but just their presence.
Yeah.
Just them being there, being around me, talking about shite, talking about the dinner, talking about bleeding. We were talking about hair on Monday, but I hate it. Just
even though they were there, you didn't feel alone.
You have to have that.
Yeah.
You know, because I think if I was on my own, I would have feeling it, you know. But yeah. So, and again, that big thing was, I only realised, not that I only realised, I knew I was having a bit, my whole life kind of changed at the start of this year, like in terms of my personal life.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff has changed for me. So lots of great parts. I've had lots of great fun and had lots of great times, you know, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of days that I just felt were a bit darker than normal.
Yeah.
And I think now that they're brighter again.
The roller coaster.
Yeah.
Just jumping off the feelings topic for a moment, let's get into the technical end.
Yeah.
Right, so your recording process. So you're after waking up, you know, Paul McCartney with his scrambled eggs.
Yeah.
Which turned out to be yesterday the most covered song ever.
Yeah.
Or even Keith Richards waking up, and he always had a record, you know, one of these old tape recorders beside his bed, and he had the riff for Satisfaction on it from the night before. Now, you know, whatever he was doing the night before this came out. So right, you've woken up. You have lyrics in your head and a bit of a melody. What did you do next? You mentioned something about recording it on your phone, which is what a lot of people do nowadays.
So I recorded it on my phone, a WhatsApp message to myself.
Right.
You know.
That's so you wouldn't lose it.
Yeah. I have all my songs and I have there's probably 100 songs in there.
Right.
Idea, it's completely different. The originals of old songs and that. But I wrote the song, and believe it or not, there was 2 people I do chat to about music a lot. 3 people I do chat to music about a lot. One would be yourself in terms of general chats. We'd have great chats. So I sent it on to you, the WhatsApp version, the rough guide copy that I had.
Yeah.
I would have sent one to Martin, who does the filming. He always gives me great advice, great kind of he's very honest, you know.
Yeah.
He tells me when I'm shit and tells me when I'm good, and I trust his word a lot. And there's another guy, Jay, that I speak to on a frequent basis, that I sent it to him, and I said, what do you think? Like, now it would have been kind of at different times of what do you think of the song, but that's all that's heard it. And when I kind of got, I know you had messaged me back and said you enjoyed it, or you liked it, and I said to myself, I have to record this song, you know, because
it blew me away.
Yeah.
I don't think I wrote something like that.
Yeah.
But like you're sort of putting you're a little bit lower than my reaction was a bit higher.
I do kind of
just
saying,
for people that are listening, it blew me away. Let's call a spade a spade. I know you're quite modest, but I'm being fucking honest. It blew me away.
with the song itself, once I knew myself it was a song I have to record, you know.
This was only a demo, like, and
I heard the likings of I know it was a 9 Inch Nails song, but Johnny Cash's Hurt and things like that just pulled me to something like that. I thought to myself, this reminds me of it. It's one of his songs, and even when I'm singing it now, I'm getting I get a weird feel. The reason why I wanted to really record it though, Kevin, was, as I said, it was the first song, and I always find it a bit not weird when people cry, because I understand it when they cry to what I'm at the right, but I never cry myself to other songs. Very few have ever done. I don't think I've ever done it. And when I listened to that song, I was so close to breaking down, but had to play the hard man or the stick boy that, you know. But yeah, I went into the studio then, messaged Stuart in Jealoustown Studios, who's top producer. We work very close and we got on really good, you know.
So you just jumped, get there, get it recorded.
I went in, got it into the studio, and I said to Stuart, I want to record this song. I want it raw as fuck. And
I know we had a little bit of a discussion in and around, because there's some very dark sort of themes to the song, and there's also, you know, the opposite of that. There's the light, there's someone to hold your hand to help you. It is okay to feel alone, but you know, there's a very dark sentence or two in it, and it could come across a certain way. And what were your feelings about that? And people not told you to change or asked you to change words, but they gave certain opinions around changing. I don't want to say the lyrics, but
so there's particular lines that are they're lines a lot of people wouldn't write about, you know. And I remember years ago, Glenn Hansard said something about he done a quote thing about what I was doing, you know, and he says like he's not afraid to write or speak about those kind of issues other people won't speak about. And there was a line in the second verse of it that some people had said to me, including a psychologist, said, I don't know about that word, you know. Don't know whether it changed that word, maybe change from this to this for it. And I was going into the studio the night before thinking I'm going to change the words. And then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to go how I feel. And believe it or not, when I spoke to you, you had said to me, oh, I'd leave it as is, you know.
I just feel because you wrote that from the heart.
So when I was speaking to you, I said to you on the call, I'm going to go in and see how I feel in the studio.
Yeah, good feeling.
And when I went in, I got that feeling, and I said, you know what, if I change it, I feel like I'm changing it to have something the same as what other people have, or what other, like I'm changing it to do something that's the norm.
Yeah.
And I want to be different, and not for different for using raw words or words that you probably shouldn't discuss, but different because it came out of my head and I'm not holding back.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it is only a word.
Yeah.
And it does represent something that's real in the world.
Yeah.
Something that's very dark and can be very horrible.
Yeah.
So it is only a word.
Yeah.
And you know, sometimes words can have a lot of meaning and can cause trouble.
I think it depends on how you listen to it, you know. I think it depends on what way you take the song. Like some people will say, someone said to me before, I think it's a trigger word or something like that, you know.
Yeah, I get
that.
But also when I was listening to it, I didn't feel that line was necessarily, I mean, what something you were even going to contemplate.
Yeah.
Again, to me, I took it more as an artistic expression from you.
Yeah.
That was covering, you know, a broader feeling.
Yeah.
Rather than, oh my God, do I need to talk to Ciaran about this?
Yeah, I think that's the other point from my side. I think it's important to note as well, like that particular line, and I'll keep the line out. I won't say it because I think it'll give it a nice. People might wonder what the line is, and they'll hear it soon. The particular line, but the line that I'm speaking about doesn't mean I was doing that. All I'm saying is, if you were to do that, it's only going to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and
well, I feel that line will help people.
Yeah. I hope it does.
Because there's two sides to it.
Yeah.
There's the dark line, and then there's the light line that comes after it.
Yeah.
You know, and that to me what it's about.
Yeah.
You know, it's, you know, James Taylor, you've got a friend, or
and
anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a darkness, but there's also you know, there's your friends and your family to help you through this.
Yeah. Get you through the war.
You know, or you know, as well, you have to help yourself.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
Yeah.
You know, and even if that first step, you helping yourself, is telling other people you need help.
Yeah.
It's all to me. That's all in the song.
Yeah. It's there's something about it, you know. There's something that feel a little bit strange about this song or something like that. I find it hard to explain it in ways because, as I said, it's nearly like a personal letter to myself saying, don't worry about it, you know. And I think if that goes to, I know a lot of people advocate for mental health and they're pushing it, and I wouldn't like to come across as someone that's trying to do that necessarily, but if there's one person that...
But it's sort of a human experience, the way I'm seeing it, rather than you're not preaching.
It's not, I'm not trying to say like, anyone that has problems listen to the song and make it go viral. I'm just trying to say, this is how I felt, and I'm just letting you know it's alright to feel like that, you know.
I think, well, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, especially those who know you. To me, it came from the heart.
Yeah.
It's something that's pure and that's coming from the heart. Whether it goes viral or not, and I hope it does personally for you, because I think it needs to get out there. But you didn't write it to go viral. That's the difference. No. It's from the heart.
No, I'd never do that.
I don't think it would work for you because I think it would be false.
It wouldn't. A lot of people do contact me when, you know, violin they're playing or Katie Taylor's fighting or Conor McGregor's fighting or something like that. Write a song about this. Write a song about the Irish thing. That's not me. You know what I mean? That's the complete opposite of what I do. I nearly, not insulting, but I nearly feel like that's just not my, like, people want you to get, if you do this, you'll do that. Do a cover of Luke Kelly's song or whatever, and it might be his most famous song, but it's not my favourite song, you know. But never bandwagon to do something. Never jump on the back of something just because, like, there's a lot of people, and if they do it and they enjoy doing that kind of thing, that's amazing. If that works for you and if that fills what you want.
Some people do that for celebrity success. And this brings us back there.
And I don't actually think that's another thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like,
no,
I've had some bands. Yeah, I've had some bands that supported me, and you can tell like what they're doing is to get to that kind of, like, they want to be wearing the sunglasses and the necklace and the chains and whatever. That's amazing if that's what you want to do. Just for me personally, I've no interest in that. And with the songwriting, like, again, I could do all the, like, Katie Taylor's fighting in a couple of weeks, I could do a song about it, and I could write them, to be fair, in some cases stronger than the shite that's out there about it, you know. But it's just not for me. I wouldn't like to be ever known as someone that got. I always say I prefer to lose a game knowing that I won, or knowing that I played by being myself. You know, and that's something that I kind of came up with before about. Just one time me. I don't give like.
It's your songwriting first.
Yeah.
You're improving your skills.
Yeah.
Working on your talent. Talent is something I believe you're born with, but you have to feed it.
Yeah.
You have to work on it. And by that I mean the person who's good at golf, the person who's good at gardening, they probably have something in them or they learn at a young age, and then you have to feed it. For me, it was drawing. I was always drawing as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, that's what makes me happy. So just talking about songwriting in general, and you know, you've done a lot of songwriting classes and stuff like that. And I know you love working with, say, teenagers and younger, you know, a younger audience.
Yeah.
What advice would you give, you know, these budding songwriters, lyricists, musicians?
I started reading a book recently by a chap called Rick Rubin. A lot of people have known him. He's a producer. He's mega. And I always said this thing, but I seen he says it in his book, and I thought to myself, people are going to think he's saying this because Rick Rubin says it. But the first thing that's always appealed to me from when I was a kid is there's no rules.
Yeah.
With songwriting, if you feel like you're saying a certain word, a certain line, a certain phrase, or a certain way of singing is wrong, and you change your way to suit what's out there, you're gonna fall behind, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. I've done a songwriting course in a youth centre in the north inner city recently, and I was saying to the kids, like, there was a young girl there, and she was saying, I was on the Lewis, and there was someone that called her black, you know. She was only a young girl, she was writing, and she said, I can't put the word Lewis in a song like I'm black, like, and I said, why not?
That's exactly what I would have said.
You
Why
know,
not?
why? And she put it in, and I told her, just do whatever you think yourself you want to speak about. There was another young girl, amazing singer as well, guitarist as well, and she wrote a song about one of her uncles that passed away. She was saying, I can't write about this because it's a bit like sad and things like that, and I can't talk, like, I asked her, like, what type of person was he, you know? And she was saying, like, he was a joker, but he was this and that, and I was saying, put it in.
Yeah.
Put everything in. That was something that was big for me, because I was writing songs about things that you shouldn't be writing about, you know, and a lot of the songs I write about, people say there's similarities of what I do to other artists, but I think there is also a gap in terms of how straight I am when I write compared to other people. I think sometimes people build a wall around it and kind of, well, not afraid to do it, but they're a little bit, they hold back a little bit with certain things.
Yeah.
I think just go for it, you
But
know.
there'll always be similarities.
Oh yeah.
And there will always
of
be,
course.
especially in the world we live in, there's always going to be comparison.
Yeah.
You know, social media leads to compare and despair for a lot of people. But I mean, you've a guitar, right? You're a singer-songwriter, and there's been many before you and hopefully many after you.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be that comparison, but you're still Ciaran at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And you're when you're writing your own truth, that's where it comes from. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Whether you might sound like someone on one or two songs, or
Yeah, I think there's no harm. There's never any harm, and like sometimes it's a great compliment when someone
sometimes
says,
you don't even know you're doing it.
Yeah, you wouldn't realise it, but I just, like, as I said, that idea of, like, if you think when you're writing a song, if you're a young kid or someone young starting to write songs, and you think, I'm at to be listening to Dermot Kennedy this morning, I can't write about the plastic bag in my ma's press, or the dryer going off and the yoke, and you think you're just gonna write what's out there already, you know what I mean? Whereas if you can be as straight to yourself and as true to yourself and as honest about certain situations, then you've no one else can tell that story. No one else can read what you've seen. Another important thing that I'd say is, and I could lie by saying, like, something that I did years ago would have been watching a lot of other artists, and I wouldn't be, like, not in a weird way, or I know that sounds a little bit strange, but like, I spent a lot of time on social media, and you just see posts by other artists. I'm playing Electric Picnic this weekend, I'm playing Forbidden Fruit, I'm playing this festival, that festival, I'm doing these sessions, I'm doing that gig. Every time I seen it, I just felt, I'm not good enough for this, you know.
Yeah.
There's no chance if they're getting it, and I think I'm as good as them, or even close to them, and I'm not even getting a call for it. There's no chance for me. And I genuinely cancelled it. Thought to myself, you know what, you have to put that time from them into you. Since I've done that, we've done the Whelan's upstairs, we've done the Academy too, we've done the Whelan's main room, we've done the London. All that's only happened since then. Liverpool. I haven't done genuine. I can't remember one thing I done successfully while I was in that mind frame.
And it also comes back to and this is even before social media, the overnight success, or the 10-year overnight success, and the 10-year is the important bit. You know, you see someone doing their gig somewhere on an electric picnic, but you don't see the road to
10 years to it now.
You know, or you know, I'm a massive Beatles fan, so I equate everything back to the Beatles.
Yeah.
The 10,000 hours in Hamburg.
Yeah.
You know, when they were living behind the shitty cinema screen, right, in a tiny room, you know, the 3 out of the 4 biggest stars in the world, right? You know, playing to drunk German sailors, learning their craft.
Yeah.
You know,
the graft that goes,
the hard work, the disappointments, the rejection, the not waking up with the beautiful lyrics in your head. You know, the shitty fucking the moon in June. The rejection bit is a big thing. But doesn't it make you?
It does, but it can also cancel you, or not cancel. It can also, rejection can also bring you back.
Yeah.
You know, I used to send loads of emails, around 300, 400 emails. No lie, but this copy and paste now changed the first line of it or something like that. Honest to God, you'd probably get 10 replies if you were lucky. There might be 10 replies saying, get back to me next year. And most wouldn't write back. And it's very, very easy to think. I still get it sometimes. I still think to myself.
I think you always will.
Sometimes I get to myself, Jesus, I'm a little bit like, I'm not doing this or I'm not doing that, you know. But I started doing a little thing that, so there were certain sessions that was happening in Dublin and around, that if I couldn't get onto them, I'd hire the venue a few months later and ram it in a room or something with a couple of family and friends and that, and do my own gig there, you know. Or videos or whatever it is. I just do my own thing. But the big thing was that, like, the hard work does go in. I'm doing this since I'm a kid, but I've been in bands, but actually solo I'm only doing the last couple of years, and I don't treat it like it's a like, in some ways I treat it like a hobby, but I don't treat it as a game. Like, I take it very serious, you know. And sitting around watching others, like, I know a lot of people wouldn't be fans of Conor McGregor and that, but I remember a quote he said, and it was, losers focus on winners and winners focus on winning.
Yeah.
Don't know whether that's a quote from before, but he did say it, and I remember thinking, that's mad, like, that's bang on the nail. That's what I seen, you know.
He's a controversial figure and a lot of people have opinion, but you cannot take away the hours he put in the gym.
No, you can't. And
the work he put in, you can't take that away. Whether you're pro or anti Conor McGregor, or whether you couldn't give a shit out of it.
The work, the lead up to it, and the belief, you know. And look where he is now. I know some people aren't for him, some people are. And I just want to have a little chat with you about something which I think is so important, and it touches on what we were talking about, and it's your team. Yeah. Right? People think, you know, especially if you're a solo star or whatever, you know, you did it all yourself, but you don't. No. You need a good team behind you. Yeah. Or you need to surround yourself with good people you can trust, people that'll help you. Yeah. And vice versa. Yeah, your team, it's so easy to build your team quickly when you're doing something all right, you know. Like, a lot of people love you when you're doing something half decent, you know. And it's so easy to say, right, come on. I've always been tight though. I've always had a really small. I believe it or not, for the first couple of years, a lot of it was myself, you know, and someone that would have been tight with me at the time. But I've always said I don't really go to these kind of nights out and try make friends, or like, I'm not in this to make friends, not in a bad way. Like, the people that come to the gigs, I nearly feel like they're all my mates, but I mean, like, other musicians and things like that, they're all amazing doing their own thing, but like I don't go to the international bar and sit around playing Ronnie Drew songs for 2 hours. I think it's savage that people do it. For me, I'm too focused on the songs and making the music, you know. So I always just have it that point now where it's me, somebody around me, my manager, and like working with different teams and that promoters, and I always just keep the separation from different things, like just knowing that they're only a promoter, they're not your mates, or they're not this or that, and I hate the business side of music, you know. I can't stand that. I think it's...
You do have to look after it. As James Brown always says, it's show business.
Yeah, it is, but it's... That's the part I dislike the most of this, you know, and sometimes you can get a bit carried away with that because, like, emails and some emails are getting their ass.
Yeah, and energy drain.
Yeah, it knocks lumps out of you, you know, but...
That's when you need your McGuinness, you know, or your Brian Epstein.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I have a good, I do have a good team around me, I have to say, and I've a lot of people that are willing to push me and kind of get the best out of me. Like the likings of Stuart in the studio, when we go to the studio each time, I don't go in there and he says, "Ciaran, you're great every time you sing." Like the last time I was in there, he says, "That first, I don't know where
that wouldn't work.
Don't know where you're hitting them notes from." He was saying to me, like, they're bad, like you don't sound good. No, certain takes of it. He's saying to me, "Jesus, where are you getting that note from?" You know, or not as kind of degrading as that.
Someone knows you can do a bit better.
He always does it. You know, like you can do better than that. Like, and I do it.
Yeah, you might feel that you get that sting though when someone criticises you or even gives you advice. But then you take a step back and you go, well, they're right.
Do you know what? I always find it weird that when I'm in the studio in the vocal booth, I always find it strange because I always feel like I'm at doing the first 2 takes and he says, "Nah, you can do better than that, Ciaran," you know, or try it again, try that line again or whatever. And then the next 3 times I do it, I automatically think, "Oh no, sorry, that was shit," and he'd say, "No, that was the one on the money. That's the shot. That's the take." So
sometimes you need that outside voice.
Good people around me, man, and me. Like I stated this before, but when I go home and that, like, my family are all into music.
Yeah.
So when I go home, I don't go home and people are saying, "Are you out doing an interview today? Or are you gigging today? Or what are you doing?" It's what's happening, what you up to? You know, man, I'm just had to be floating around or whatever. I was in town, and it's just normal conversations. There's never praise, and no one ever makes you feel bigger or better than what you are, you know. It's always that you know who you are. You play a few songs on the guitar, you write a few tunes. Other people would say otherwise, but for me, to play a few songs and write a few songs, I play a few tunes and write a few songs, and that's really it to me, you know. That's all I do, I think. Other people will think different, but that's why it works for me, because, as I say, when I go home, no one praises me, no one says, "You sound amazing here," no one says, "Can I hear your new music?" I'd never heard my music playing in my house in my life other than when I'm showing them it.
Yeah.
It's not that they don't like it, it's just they're used to being around music.
It's a different thing, yeah.
You know, and that's where I think sometimes I get sometimes people say you don't sell yourself enough, but I always have that thing, you know. Sure, I'm just the same as you. Why would I sell myself, you know? Just the exact same as you or anyone else or he or she that walks by, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's down to my family. That's why I think it works, you know. Good circles.
But you do have some great songs, and you do have stuff coming out.
There's loads going to be done. There's going to be a lot of songs coming out soon, but we'll start with this one. And I think this takes me back to me Mother and Follow Your Soul songs days, if that makes sense, in style of writing. I think it kind of pulls me back to that a little bit, and they're the songs I really enjoy playing, you know. And can't wait to play it live. I'm looking forward to playing live. I'm dying to see. I haven't played it live yet, so even in the studio, it's multi-track.
Reaction.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to doing it. I'll probably do it in the...
Back to the mobile phone. It's definitely going to be the Torches on the mobile phone type song.
Hopefully.
And a sing-along chorus.
Yeah.
I definitely think...
It's easy enough as well, the OK bits. Just remember the OK,
You hit the nail on the head one way or the other, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it'll be good. I'm looking forward to getting out. I haven't put out music in a while. I want to get back into the flow of things, and as I said, a little dodgy few months behind me. But
You're coming out of it.
I'm probably in the best place I've ever been from what I remember at the minute.
And that helps with creativity.
Yeah. Do you know what, Kevin? Something I always notice on Instagram with friends and certain people that I follow, and that they always share this kind of. They'll share a picture of Cillian Murphy of Peaky Blinders with a quote saying like it's all about being positive and all that. And if that works for them, that's great. But that doesn't work for me. That kind of stuff, about being always positive. But I feel without any reasoning, I don't know what I'm doing or what's changing or what's different, but just feel great now. I feel really good. I can see where I went wrong or see what I done wrong in the last few months by not feeling good. I feel like I was just trying to be happy too much or something like that from everything going on. But
you're starting to listen to your gut a bit more.
Yeah. I'm feeling like for some reason I'm feeling good.
They say it's the second brain, and you should always listen to it.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? Every time I'm in the studio, I'm trying to do things that just are not how you should do it. Like, don't do it the way they do it. Don't. A man, Rick Rubin, says people always say like songs are 3 minutes long. The average is 2 or 3 minutes long. Yeah. If you have a song that's 10 minutes long, do it. If you have a song that's a minute and a half, do it. There's no rules, and that's the thing.
I think the song dictates, not the rules. No.
Yeah, I think it's going to be with releasing this song. I think it's another avenue people haven't seen of me. It's a personal letter to myself, and I think it'll be a personal letter to other people. They'll feel the same, and I'm buzzing. I'm ready to get going now. Yeah.
I think as an artist, I think you've definitely you're hitting the new step on the ladder. I don't think no one ever reaches the top, but you just keep going up and up and up. Yeah. And I think you're definitely heading in the right direction. I think it's fantastic. I'm not blowing smoke up your hole.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot.
I definitely, I've only heard the demo. I think it's a brilliant song. I think it's going to touch a lot of people, and I really hope it gets out there, and I'm wishing you all the success.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I can't wait to get it out. Even if it gets one person listen.
Well, one already, and there will be more.
Yeah, indeed. And the recorded version will be nice. We've nice stuff recorded. So yeah, I really appreciate it as well.
Looking forward to hearing it.
Always a great chat. We always have a good chat, and I look forward to working on.
Yeah,
we'll work on a good project and storyboard soon.
It's it's in the works. So anyone listening, we're looking for funding for a project.
Yeah, work it out there.
We have this project that's called Story, where we create murals, as you know.
Great murals.
And the murals are always inspired by written words, whether it's a song, lyrics, poetry, stories. And where these written words come from can sometimes be a collaboration between a poet and young people, or a singer-songwriter and a group. At the moment, we're working with an older crowd in East Wales, I was saying, and they have brilliant stories, and they're all going to go into the mural. It's not a story project, but it's a very similar process. Myself and Grania, who I work with, as you know, you've met Grania, really want to do something with you. We don't want to do something just down the lane. We're there where we could do it for free. That's not what it's about. We want to do a nice big project. We've been looking for and I'm really looking forward to do it. And it will happen. I do believe it will. Yeah. I think that went well, did it?
Yeah.
So I forgot to press record.